the fake narrative and reality that these dickheads on the Democratic Party are trying to present to you, like there is this honest Republican Party, that there are these institutionalist Republicans out there, and they're Mitt Romneys of the world, the Liz Cheneys of the world, and they are actually going to do what's right, and just, you know, it's a simple disagreement in policy positions, and, you know, we should hype those Republicans up and like focus on those guys and not the scary Republicans, misses the forest for the trees. How many times have I talked about this? Saying this, the January 6th insurrection is exclusive to Donald Trump and the American radicalization of the Republican Party is exclusive to Donald Trump is idiotic. It's not, okay? Republicans have always lied about voter fraud, okay? Always. It is a fundamental part of how they win elections. There are less registered Republicans in this country than there are Democrats, okay? Republicans know this, but Democrats, I guess, refuse to see this. And Republicans engage in a sequence of voter suppression measures that they successfully implement every step of the way to end up winning elections, regardless of having less people vote for them. And the reality of that has been seen numerous fucking times. Donald Trump lost the popular vote and still won. George W. Bush lost the popular vote and still won. And even back then, they were engaging in fucking election meddling. Are you fucking kidding me? They do this all the time. So why would you assume that Republican voters that hear about these lies every fucking day about how the Republicans are the lies that they hear in every fucking television special, in every television broadcast about how voter fraud is real? You know, undocumented Mexicans are fucking winning the Democratic Party vote for them. You know, voter fraud is real. Voter fraud is real. Voter fraud is real. They hear that all the time from every Republican, including fucking Liz Cheney and including the Mitt Romneys of the world and including the Paul Ryans of the world, that these fucking decrepit old institutionalist asshats would uphold as honest to God Republicans with just a simple disagreement. All of those motherfuckers did the exact same voter fraud bullshit to justify voter suppression. So why would you ever think that there are honest Republicans out there? And worse, why would you ever make it seem like to your fucking stands, okay, the MSNBC watcher libtard audiences out there, some of your parents are these people, why would you ever fucking lie to them and be like, Republicans, there's honest Republicans out there? It's actually just Donald Trump. It's not just Donald Trump, dumbass. Donald Trump wasn't president. Joseph Robinette Biden was, when Republicans passed through state legislatures measures to literally fucking never let the past election cycle losses happen again. Okay? Once again, everyone who just singles out Donald Trump in this situation is totally missing the forest for the trees. Okay? They are, and in my opinion, they're doing this deliberately. They are denying any responsibility from the other Republicans. Okay? And they're doing this to be like, oh yeah, it's just the fucking, it's the bad guys was Donald Trump and all the Donald Trump fans. Like, that's, we on the other hand, we were the good guys. Like, no, dude. Do you believe in voter fraud? Do you think that's happening? Then you're a bad guy too. If you've been promoting voter fraud conspiracies your entire fucking political career and claiming that the Democrats are stealing elections for many, many years, then you are absolutely a part of this, okay? And I think, fuck this shit. We're gonna do a quick lesson here. Some of you are already aware of this. You've heard me talk about this shit for a very long time. The Republican strategy of winning elections does not revolve around gaining momentum and actually like having more people vote for them rather than the other guys. The Republican strategy revolves around making as little people vote as possible, stopping people from voting, and engaging in voter suppression. And the way to justify that voter suppression is by creating a lie about voter fraud. So I'm going to show you a famous video that many of you have seen so many times on this broadcast. Goo government syndrome. Okay, this is from Paul Weyrich, who is the founding father of the conservative movement. This is a very, very famous conservative guy, and he is addressing a seminal religious right gathering held in Dallas in the fall of 1980. Okay, this is why I always say it doesn't matter if so many Republicans die of COVID, because their goal isn't to fucking win elections by actual sheer numbers. Okay, so here it is. Paul Weyrich, the founding father of the conservative movement, openly stating this.
Now, many of our Christians have what I call the goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now.
He's right. Denying women the right to vote, denying black people the right to vote. This is a part of the conservative strategy. It doesn't matter if they were called Republicans or Democrats. That has always been the Electoral College, gerrymandering. Every facet of government has been created to make you feel like you live in this theoretical democracy, but in fact, it's not a democracy at all. As a matter of fact, Republicans very openly state that it's a republic, actually, and also it's not a democracy, and that there's such a thing as the tyranny of majority. Okay. The alternative to the tyranny of majority is the tyranny of minority, which is what we live in. It is an oligarchy where a very small fraction of people at the tippy top that have all the power and all the wealth and all of the assets basically control what the bourgeois government does. And that's what we currently exist in. And the two-party system absolutely creates that or justifies that reality, right? But if you are to reduce it to like either party having a different point of view, here's a Republican absolutely openly stating that it's not about fucking winning elections with the majority at all. It's never been about that, and he's right.
As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections quite candidly goes up as the voting populace goes down.
And he was talking about this in front of Jerry Falwell, who is, again, famous evangelical, and Ronald Reagan. Weyrich then went on to co-found the Heritage Foundation, the Moral Majority, the Free Congress Foundation, American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC. These are all some of the worst, most nefarious Republican think tanks that are responsible for every fucked talking point that you've ever heard, and responsible for things like, you know, a third of the country not believing in climate change and anything that you fucking hate, okay? Basically, anything that you hate and despise about how fucking annoying and stupid conservatives are, that's where this comes from. That's where these think tanks have worked their magic. So there is this very obvious momentum towards this idea that like elections are not supposed to be won by the majority of people. It's supposed to be won by a minority of people. That's like what we do. And here's Donald Trump also admitting that reality as well. Trump, remember when he said Republicans would never be elected again if it was easier to vote, where he openly stated that, where was it? It was on Fox and Friends, right? Here.
If there is another relief bill, how can we stop lawmakers from dipping into it again for special interest projects? Man, we were just talking about this. Do you want to expand? Can we stop the next one?
It's just the common facts. I mean, they have a majority in the House, and therefore you need their vote, and they want to get certain things. I will tell you this. If you look at before and after, the things they had in there were crazy. They had things, levels of voting that if you ever agreed to it, you'd never have a Republican elected in this country again. They had things in there about, election days and what you do and all sorts of clawbacks. And they had things that were just totally crazy. And
so he openly stated that. Senator Rand Paul, how to steal an election, seating an area heavy with potential Democratic votes with as many absentee ballots as possible, targeting and convincing potential voters to complete them in a legally valid way, and then harvesting and counting the results. So all of these Republicans that are supposedly like, institutional Republicans that are supposedly simply disagreeing with the Donald Trump style of like lying about how the election was stolen, they themselves have always routinely engaged in this exact same fucking lie. And that's precisely why it's not just Donald Trump's fault or failure. Donald Trump simply, as he always does, took this to the logical conclusion. Every Republican in perpetuity has always lied about voter fraud. They've always said illegals are voting, undocumented people are voting. Complete lie. Voter fraud is not real. Election fraud, on the other hand, in some instances is real. Election fraud meaning like, people engaging in like ballot harvesting in a way where they throw out like fucking votes of a certain group of individuals. That shit happens every now and then, but it's super rare. And when that does happen, guess which party is doing that? Take a guess. Where some of the most famous, election fraud instances have occurred, and it's not the Democrats. But what they do is they push for this lie that voter fraud is real so that they can justify as many voter suppression tactics as they possibly can that range from, signature matching, ID laws, closing polling stations in poor areas, all the way to something as simple as not letting people vote on a holiday, not making it so that it is a federal holiday where people can just go out and fucking vote, making it so difficult to fucking vote, as difficult as possible. If you live in a poor neighborhood and it takes you 2.5 fucking hours to sit in a line to go out and vote for a Democrat that doesn't even give a shit about you, okay, and is not going to really change your material realities in a meaningful capacity, that is by design. That is done on purpose. Not allowing voting to occur on a national holiday is absolutely voter suppression. Straight up. That was in H.R. 1. That was absolutely a measure that the Democrats wanted to pass that Republicans were like, no, fuck no, we're not doing. And Democrats didn't fight hard enough for it either. Liz Cheney talking about who's hailed as a fucking hero, by the way. Liz Cheney, who is hailed as a hero by liberal media. Here's what her opinions are on voter suppression.
You don't see any linkage between Donald Trump saying the election's stolen and then Republicans in all of these state legislatures rushing to put in place these restrictive voter laws?
Well, I think you have to look at the specifics of each one of those efforts. I think if you look at the Georgia laws, for example, there's been a lot that's been said nationally about the Georgia voter laws that turns out not to be true.
But even the Republican Lieutenant Governor of Georgia, Jeff Duncan, said that there was, when this bill started to pick up momentum was when Rudy Giuliani was testifying that the Georgia election was a sham. I don't think anyone doubts that the reason 400 some.
Axios, by the way, is a right-wing outlet. Remember that. A right-wing outlet is asking, don't you think that if Donald Trump is responsible for January 6th, that the entirety of the Republican Party is kind of responsible for following on that exact same narrative? Voter fraud and voter suppression are married to one another, okay? One cannot exist without the other, because you can't just be like, we need to protect our elections even harder than before without creating this fucking narrative that like the elections are under attack regularly. Yes, Axios is a center-right publication. Absolutely. So this is precisely why I say fuck all of these demons, okay? And even fuck the Democratic Party for allowing these demons to coexist.
Voting bills have been introduced 90% by Republicans, supported by the Republican National Committee. I don't think it's a coincidence after the election that this has happened.
Look, I think everybody should want a situation and a system where people who ought to be able to vote and have the right to vote can vote, and people who, you know, don't shouldn't. And again, I come back to things like
but what problem
voter
are
ID.
they solving for? Like, there's not like, what are all these states doing?
No, I think, well, each state is different.
What was the big problem in Georgia that needed to be solved by a new law? What was the big problem in Texas? What was the big problem in Florida? What was the... These laws are coming all around the states, and like, what are they solving for?
I think you've got to look at each individual state law. But I think what we can all agree on...
You can't divorce them from the context.
Well,
like, come on.
yeah, but I think what we can agree on is that what is happening right now is really dangerous. And
I can agree with that.
You know, when I think about 2000, think about sitting on the inaugural platform in January of 2001, watching Al Gore. Of course, you know, we had won. I'm sure.
Yeah, the rest of this is deflection and bullshit, okay? She successfully parried, okay? That's what she did. She pulled a fucking Sekiro parry right there.
We're going to back up now.
All right, let's get to Americans on both sides of the political aisle sharing mistrust in the electoral process.
Do you think a civil war is possible in your lifetime?
I think if they push people too far against the wall,
he even bombed his speech today.
especially the Southerners, they're not going to take it.
And it's not just Story who worries that when it comes to actual fighting, we are closer than any of us would like to believe.
How confident are you that the 2020 election was the most secure in American history?
Oh, not at all. That's a joke. No, it was not.
That feeling of fraud, if only a feeling, is what led so many to Washington on January 6th to, in their minds, defend democracy.
The words that come to mind for you to describe the feeling and the atmosphere there, what are they?
Patriotic, unity, hope.
When you hear other people describe it as a riot or an insurrection, how do you feel?
I feel upset.
Her belief that the election was stolen is shared by millions.
Bro, where do you think this came from? Every moment that Republicans and Democrats are not fighting, okay, politicians I mean, are not fighting on actual issues. Every moment that the Democratic Party isn't making genuine steps towards like material restitution, helping fucking workers organize, helping fucking unions build up again in this country, and Republicans being forced to like counter that, is a moment where Republicans could just have this argument over and over again and just fucking lie about like elections are stolen. Oh no, like Republicans would never have time to come up with new ways of polarizing people on nonsensical cultural issues if Democrats were actually doing anything, okay? Anything at all. Like, we have no options. Like, we just, if you don't do shit as the Democratic Party and you just sit by and wait to get reelected because, you know, Republicans are fucking demons, the reason why Republicans can get away with just like hyper focusing on this nonsensical bullshit and lying all the goddamn time is because they're not keeping busy countering the Democratic Party's agenda, because there is no agenda. The only agenda is sitting around and doing nothing and having a rotating villain within your caucus. It could be this year it's fucking Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Maybe next time it's going to be Maggie Hassan. You know what I mean? Or it'll be the Senate parliamentarian. Throw your hands up in the air and go, oh, I guess we can't do anything until Republicans come back, do a fucking full-blown wipe in the midterms, and then Democrats go, oh, we really can't do anything now. We don't even have the slim majority that we had before. Oopsie. And then Republicans get elected into the fucking White House because Democrats didn't do shit and people are fucking pissed off and more people are just like not interested in voting anymore. And then the Republicans come in and they do even more fucked up shit for 4 fucking years because they're morally abhorrent, psychotic fucking vultures that want to target like certain bases that are really active within their, voter base, like the evangelical Christians, like the fucking QAnon weirdos, the anti-vaxxers, whatever. And then their behavior is so damaging, is so horrible that people are still again motivated to go make sure that a Republican doesn't take a seat of power again. That's it.
And it doesn't seem like anything or anybody can restore their faith.
Do you trust Congress?
Not now. Not even Republicans.
Do you trust journalists, the media?
Well, even Fox News, who we used to have respect for, seems to have let us down and called the election early.
Do you trust the courts?
Oh, my.
What's particularly dangerous about this moment, though, according to people who have studied Democratic decline, is that these feelings of mistrust exist across party lines, albeit for very different reasons.
How did you feel watching Bernie Sanders?
This is always so funny, dude. This is like, they literally go and they fucking ask people, like on the Democratic side, like, why do you mistrust the elections, like, or the upcoming elections? They'll be like, well, there's a lot of voter suppression.
Lose to Hillary Clinton in the primary.
That was when I lost a good amount of my faith in the system.
Alicia Sadassi is a bartender in Brooklyn who believes the will of the voters was thwarted in 2016 by superdelegates in the primary.
Donald John Trump.
Okay, no. The will of the voters was not thwarted, okay? There's a difference between Bernie Sanders losing because mainstream media, especially for the primaries, is incredibly powerful in creating narratives and pushing specific candidates with earned media than like they fucking hid vote counts or some other kind of thing, okay? Conservatives always benefit from less people voting. So the same exact reasons why Republicans win in the general is the exact same way that Democrats that are centrist or center-right or fucking neoliberal overall, they win in the primaries. People don't participate in the primaries. They don't think it's important. It's the most important part, in my opinion. And when you do actually get people to pay attention to the primaries or actually get them to try to fucking vote for someone, then the media rises up. Guys, Bernie Sanders was compared to Nazis, okay? They kept saying he was unelectable. The people that ended up voting for Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden never stepped foot in their fucking states, they voted for him, and in the exit polls said they were in support of every single Bernie Sanders policy. There's got to be a reason for that, right? Please explain how that works. It only works if everyone's telling you the number one thing you should care about is getting Trump out of office, which understandably a lot of people were agitated and motivated for that reason. That's the only reason why people vote for Democrats in general. Defensive voting, defensive posturing. And the media keeps telling you the only person who can fucking defeat Donald Trump is Joe Biden. Electability politics. Well, it's the perfect fucking closed loop. I don't want to fucking go over this again, but like saying that there's media collusion and saying that the media was manufacturing consent, that's correct, okay? That's absolutely correct. Saying that like, people are fucking hiding votes or whatever, or some other kind of fucking weirdo shit, no, that's not correct. People genuinely and stupidly thought Joe Biden would be a better person to defeat Donald Trump than Bernie Sanders. That's it.
And the Electoral College in the general election.
I don't think that any part of the election had democracy fulfilled. I mean, Trump didn't get the majority of votes, so how is that democracy, right? So,
While Sadassi's doubts...
Yeah, there were hella liberals that said they were going to vote for Trump if Bernie won the nomination. And of course, remember when everyone blamed Bernie Sanders for the 2016 election loss instead of actually fucking accurately assessing how unlikable Hillary Clinton was? That was fucking idiotic, but that shit went off in the fucking news media. I wonder why. Despite the fact that a larger percentage of Clinton voters actually ended up voting for John McCain than Bernie voters that ended up voting for Donald Trump. It's all media narratives. And the media is still an incredibly powerful tool to fucking whip votes. Okay? It's just the reality. And it's not like ads that you're purchasing. I'm talking about earned media. Okay? Earned media.
...in the system are different from those expressed at the Capitol last year. The effect is very much the same.
So you don't trust Congress?
It's hard to trust Congress, yeah.
You don't trust the Supreme Court?
Uh-huh. Narrowing it down, right?
Despite their differences, both women see themselves as defenders of the same underlying principles.
You consider yourself to be a patriot?
Yes.
Are you proud to be an American?
Yes.
I think that I am a patriot because I'm fighting for what our constitutional rights are supposed to be and what this country says it is.
And both say they'll continue to vote and even organize for their side.
I still participate in it because I have faith that there is the possibility for change.
Are you going to trust the results?
Well, I'll vote because I always vote, but I don't know that I'll trust them.
So regardless of who wins in 2024, many voters, and maybe even most, could once again doubt the results, raising the question of how our republic can withstand such a crisis.
How concerned are you about the future of the country?
I'm very concerned. I think we're at a pivotal point. I think that good people can't stand by and do nothing anymore.
America is, as a matter of record, the longest continuously operating democracy on the planet. Are we going to keep it?
Bro, imagine saying that to a black woman. That's kind of funny. Like, just think about the historical context of a statement like that you are saying, okay? Like, I'm sorry, but you're literally saying that to a black woman, okay? Like, that's not one, but two different metrics for her not to be eligible to vote in this longest operating democracy, okay? For like a very long time. That's crazy. Yeah, what do you have to say to that?
I mean, all empires fall.
Yeah, and that's a scary thought there. Alicia does leave us with a note of hope. I can tell you that she is interested in politics, may even run herself. Both of those.
But democracy got her there, right? No, motherfucker. Democracy didn't get her there. You know what got her there? Slave owners in slave ships, okay? That's who got her there. What the fuck do you mean democracy got her there, right? What are you talking about? Yeah, dude, it was so cool when they did it's so cool when they did extra democracy during the Civil War. They were like, yo, this democracy thing is poggers. We should do some additional democracy and democratically vote to abolish slavery. That was so sick. No, democracy didn't do that, okay? You know what did that? Gunpowder. And also... Abraham Lincoln and the Republican Party and the North was a bunch of pussies at the time and certainly did not go far enough. That's straight up. That is a factually accurate statement in my opinion. They literally were gigantic fucking pussies and cowards that did not go far enough and totally fucking capitulated to these pieces of shit slave owners and those who were on the slave owners' side. And because of that, we still have all of these deep, irreparable racial issues in this country.
Well, it's been my experience, Tony. Wobbling is never good. And,
boring. Okay. America has historically never gone far enough towards racists, though. I mean, same shit goes for Nazis, too. You know what I mean? I wonder how that works. I wonder why a nation built by, aristocrats and slave owners just routinely falls short of what is necessary in the aftermath of fucking war. And then, all of that only continues to fucking flame the fires.